Okay, let's get started. Welcome to History and Theology Leadership class. You guys didn't have any reading summaries to do. And so today I'm going to share with you the results or the kind of summary of the book that I just finished on the road this weekend. I listened to the book, The Secret by Mark Miller and Ken Blanchard. So I don't know if I told everyone this class. People have been with me before, maybe heard this, but so I finished this book, this other book about 2 years ago called Win the Heart. It was a really good book about employee engagement. And so I was like, man, he's got another book on Amazon Audible called Chestnut Checkers. So I listened to that book and actually listened to the entire book while floating in the swimming pool in Guam. It was great. And I was like, man, this is a great book. So I just Googled the author real quick. At the end of the book, it says, you can contact the author through markmiller.com. So I popped that in, read, just went straight to the bottom where it says, ask Mark a question. And I put in, it was just like the length of a tweet, like, 140 something characters, whatever. You're allowed to ask him a question. So I was like, I'm the chair of a new program, wanting to train best leaders in the world. I really don't know where to start. Help, exclamation point, and send it off. I didn't think I'd hear anything back because I do that with other, celebrities and authors, and I rarely hear stuff back. But I got an email back from his secretary the next day. Said, Mr. Miller would like to talk to you. So this is in March of 2019. I'd like to talk to you like June 24th from 3 to 3:30 Central Time. I'm like, oh man, this guy must be really a big deal if he has to schedule 2 or 3 months in advance and only has a 30-minute slot. So I'm like, yes, absolutely. So I put that on my calendar, and we were moving from Guam to here at that time. So I'm like, I better look this guy up. Maybe there's more to him than I thought. So I Googled his name instead of just going straight to his website. Mark Miller, Vice President of Chick-fil-A. So I ended up getting to have a one-on-one with Mark Miller, Vice President of Chick-fil-A, as I was just starting to put this program together. So if you go into my office, on one of the mini pieces of paper I taped to the wall, there's a picture of an iceberg. And I had you guys all do that iceberg video. I got that idea from him. That's one of his concepts they use out with all the Chick-fil-A leadership. But he gave me so much good advice, and he's either written or co-written a ton of books. So all from a Christian worldview. Obviously, Chick-fil-A uses a lot of Christian principles, secular organization, but they try to implement a lot of Christian values even in their leadership training. So anyway, so I finished his #1 book is what he wrote with Ken Blanchard. Ken Blanchard is a New York Times bestseller. He's written all these different management and leadership books, and he's an outspoken Christian leader. So he co-wrote, they go to church together. They co-wrote this book, The Secret, which was like, it sold like 1 million copies or whatever. And I wish I would have read it much sooner, but the whole book's about servant leadership. So I'm going to share with you what I got from the book and the whole idea of, they have an acronym, SERVE, and that is The Secret. I'm going to share that with you guys in a little bit. But Tim, did you have a question?
Oh, just for half a second there, I thought you were transitioning to be like, no, the vice president of Chick-fil-A, and he's going to run through the door throwing Chick-fil-A sandwiches at us.
That would be a fantasy that would be, awesome, but no. But he did invite me down to Atlanta when COVID was hitting, so I come visit him at the Chick-fil-A headquarters. So that would be cool. So we might even do that. I might tie that to the
field trip.
I'm thinking about tying that to the missions trip. So I'm going to lead a trip in May to Big Oak Ranch. It's a foster care organization down in Alabama, and we have to go through Atlanta anyway. So I could tie it in to going by Chick-fil-A World Headquarters. Whoever's on the trip might get to meet Vice President Chick-fil-A. So get free nuggets or something. I don't know. I don't expect anything. But. So yeah. So anyway, you'll hear me make an announcement about that trip next week. But if you want to go, it's going to be the least expensive mission trip experience you can do here. It's only going to be a couple $100. We'll stay halfway. We're going to do a couple fun things on the way and on the way back. And while we're there, we'll serve at this big foster care organization, a couple days.
How long is the trip?
13 hours. We're going to drive. So the day of graduation, we're going to drive 5 hours to St. Louis, stay in a hotel, maybe that's on Saturday, right? So then maybe see the Arch on Sunday and then drive the rest of the way. Get down to Alabama Sunday, get settled in, stay there through Thursday, and then the plan is come back, either come through Branson and go through Silver Dollar City, or go up through like St. Louis and go to Six Flags or something on the way back, maybe something like that, something fun. Or go to Atlanta and just do a bunch of sightseeing, Coca-Cola and Chick-fil-A, and the world's best coffee shop that's not a chain is outside of Atlanta, where Caleb Sturgis is from. There's a coffee shop there called Crazy Love Coffee Shop. It's unbelievable. And Christian run business. So might do just Atlanta sightseeing and then do a, drive half the way and then come the rest of the way. So anyway, be a couple $100. And if you need your outreach credits, I'm trying to get it to where it'll count for outreach credits before you graduate. Everyone's got to have a certain number of those. So
Do you know what the return date would be?
it'd be 8 days later. So we'd leave on the Saturday, come back on the following Saturday. But if someone had to leave, because we're close to Atlanta, we're also close to some big city in Alabama, I can't remember which one, you could fly out early if you had to. So, or you could just fly back and not do the drive back. And if you're from down south, you could just meet us in Atlanta or something like that. Yeah, I guess you'd be coming out west or going out west anyway, so it might. So I wanted to leave the day of graduation so people that have weddings and classes and stuff like that could conceivably get to what they need to get to right away. All right. I'll edit all that out of the class recording.
You got to plan weddings around mission trips and stuff like that.
Yeah. All right, so Ken Blanchard does a ton of talks about servant leadership. And even though he's a well-known, outspoken Christian, all kinds of secular organizations invite him to come speak about servant leadership. I think they're kind of fascinated by the concept of it. And he's not ashamed to say that he gets it straight from Scripture. So even though the idea of servant leadership was popularized in the 20th century by a guy named John Greenleaf, and he was a Quaker and really not an outspoken Christian. But Blanchard says he goes back to Jesus Christ's example. When you look at Jesus Christ's entire life, it's all about servant leadership. So I wanted to watch this video by him, and then I want to talk about what I got from the book. So all you got to do is pay attention. Don't sleep and don't do too much social media while we're watching this, all right? And then we're going to talk about it too. All right, I'll probably crystallize some of the points from that video, and I'll turn it into a study sheet so we can do a little quiz on it. So a lot of good stuff there, but I'll rewrite that up. I wanted to go ahead and knock this out real quick as we have about 13 minutes left. So this book, The Secret, which he wrote, is like many other books that I seem to like, which are basically a story. And then the last couple chapters are explaining the principles. So if you've ever read any books by like Andy Stanley, he's got a couple leadership books that they call them a leadership fable. It's a story, fictional story, and then the principles at the end. All the Patrick Lencioni books that I recommend, the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team and stuff like that, those are all leadership fables with, the principles at the end. And Ken Blanchard uses the same style. People relate well to stories. I mean, Jesus told stories and then explained to the disciples what he meant by each of the points. So stories connect with people. So this was a story about someone that worked in a large company, and she was a top salesperson. They moved her into management. She had a team of people. And in that 1 year that she was in management, even though she's a nice person and she was a great salesperson, they lost 4 of their 10 top salespeople. They went to being the lowest department, and a couple other negative things happened. And so she went to the HR department to see if there was a way to get some help or some resources for being a better leader. And the company had just started a leader mentor program. And so they pair up a manager with a leader, and she ended up getting paired up with the CEO of the company. And then the whole thing is the leader, every time they met once a month, going through what he called the secret of being a great leader. So a couple of the takeaways from the book was first, some of the things that a great servant leader does is it goes back to creating vision, which Ken Blanchard just mentioned. Creating vision is the privilege of the leader. So, leadership comes with its privileges, right? One of those things is you get to create the vision for the organization. A lot of times, people at lower levels, they don't get to have any input on that, or they don't get to make the decision on it. So the leader but you have to look at it as a privilege that keeps you humble. It's not because you're smarter than everyone or because you deserve it or like you're God's gift to the company. It's a privilege you've been granted. Second one, if you stop learning, you stop leading. So good leaders are constantly learning how to spell and write. So this is also another step of humility. So obviously you're not going to be very effective as a servant leader if you're arrogant. So if you keep yourself in a humble position, like, hey, I don't know it all, and I need to constantly be learning. You're learning people, you're learning the skills that it takes to communicate with people, you're learning new techniques and new ways to help. And that's one of the things that helps you be an effective leader. Leaders must be both humble, this ties into that as well, because you're not going to be much of a servant if you're proud, and they have to be strategic. So this ties in both what what Ken Blanchard was saying about, the two aspects of servant leadership. Leadership is vision and direction, and then the servant part is helping your people. So that ties into this, being humble enough to really help people and strategic enough to set that vision and direction. So the acronym SERVE actually takes the idea of leadership and broadens it out a little bit when you're looking at organizational leadership. So choose the color here. Yeah. So the S stands for see and shape the future. So a good servant leader not only can see the future of the organization, but also makes conscious decisions to direct things the way that they see it. So good leaders are not passive. They're not just along for the ride. They're not just gonna rest on the successes of the previous leaders. Companies that have leaders like that always suffer because leadership is an active choice. And so that's the S. The E is engage and develop others. So you can see how a leader that's not humble or that's only looking out for their own career might not really consider the needs of the people working around the people underneath them. So they might not really care about developing other leaders. They're just caring about themselves. So every decision is calculated based on how does it help them. And this can even happen in ministry. People can get selfish and self-focused. So you have to make a conscious decision that I am going to try and help develop others. And sometimes that's a personal sacrifice. It goes above and beyond the day-to-day job. And so you have to do that. But it's worth it and it's effective. servant leaders, and this is something that kind of goes beyond what you would normally think about. They reinvent continuously. So reinvent continuously. They're constantly, if you're in the class, in our current issues class, and we just did this thing on design thinking, that's part of the process of just constantly improving and making things better. This is not tinkering with stuff like, ooh, this week you're the manager of this department, next week I'm going to have you move to a different department, you know, just to keep people moving. That might not be very effective. So reinventing just for the sake of reinventing, not good. Reinventing for the sake of making things better, always good. Always being willing to change things up, always being willing to look for a new angle, not to frustrate people, not just to exercise, you know, your power, but to make things better. It's worth it. This is a good one that really stood out to me. Value results and relationships. And so most leaders value results. You work in an organization where sales is your number one thing. Results are something you can look at on paper. You can see the numbers. Today we made more money than yesterday. Today we sold more units than yesterday. Today we made more widgets than yesterday. And so you can really value the results a lot, but then the relationships might go by the wayside. Or you could have a family-run business where it's all about, you're only concerned with the relationships. You know, well, what does mom think? You know, she's the front desk worker and she's, you know, not doing her role. And so, you know, but I don't want to hurt mom's feelings. So I'm not going to talk to her about it. We're not going to deal with this issue that's happening because this person's, you know, son-in-law to the, you know, the plant manager. So we're not going to deal with it. The relationships need to be valued, but they can't be the only thing. You need to, as a servant leader, you need to value the results and the relationships, both equally. Most organizations that are secular and profit driven probably value results naturally because that's what gets you promoted. I would imagine a lot of ministries probably value relationships more, but I think you need to elevate both. And then the last one is embody the values. So I'll explain that after I'm done writing. So if someone is a leader in the Army National Guard, you know, and while they're on duty, they're in the uniform, they're doing their job, you know, they do it competently. But then as soon as the duty day is over and they take the uniform off, their values are contradictory to what the United States Army believes in, you know. That's a big problem because we don't only intersect with people we work with during the hours that we're actually on the job. We have relationships with them that extend beyond. So you could imagine someone that hates America, but is a leader in the Army, there's going to be a conflict there, right? So the best soldiers embody the core values of the United States Army 24/7. Doesn't mean that they're never off duty, but it does mean that they never stop believing in why they're in. Same thing with ministry. You know, you wouldn't want to have a pastor that, you know, only really values, you know, biblical living, you know, on Sundays, and then the rest of the week they live like something totally different. You would want someone that embodies the values all week long. And so as a servant leader, you want to embody the values of your organization. Some of the things that you've actually helped set up and shape, you want to make sure you're actually valuing those things and embodying those things all the time. If you want people to do it, you want people to follow it, then you need to demonstrate it. It needs to be part of you as well. Or if you're having a hard time doing that, maybe you're in the wrong organization, or maybe the values aren't accurate. You know, they seem like a good idea at the time because maybe they're values that you picked up from another organization or something, but they're not working. Well, then you got to be willing to go back and reinvent and say, well, maybe we need to reword these values to line up more with where we're actually at. So this is what they would call the secret, which the book's title is The Secret, What Great Leaders Know and Do. And if you get it on Audible, it is like a 4-hour book if you listen to it at regular speed. It's like 2.5 hours. If you listen like 1.4 is the perfect speed on that book. But it's really worth listening to, and it's kind of got this entertainment quality to it because it is a story. So I like listening to audiobooks on road trips because it makes it go by so quick. Any comments or questions on this? All right, I'll probably throw this and the basic bullet point notes from Ken Blanchard's video into one study sheet, right? And then I'll publish that to you guys through Canvas. I'll probably publish it through discussion or announcement. And then we'll have a quiz or test date sometime during missions conference. You can do it whenever. And since we're not meeting next week, we don't have class next week, Tuesday and Thursday, right? So, and yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I'll also put the video, I'll embed the video in that discussion or announcement. So if you want to go back and watch it again, or you want to share it with someone, it's good stuff. I'm going to share it with the ad council here at the college. After watching it, I'm like, I think most of them will be entertained by it. A couple of them might not love the humor that I found so good. So anyway, I think that's it. I will not see you guys in class for another week and a half, right? Because next week, no class on Tuesday and Thursday. But this quiz will happen on sometime next week. I'll put it towards the end of the week, so like Thursday or Friday. So give you time to study and all that. And then basically, the quiz is not open notes, but the study sheet will have everything that the quiz has. So as long as you know the study sheet, you'll be fine on the quiz. All right. So I'll put that in there too, so you're reminded. Hey, see you guys later.